welcome back again to another episode of my ramblings and hopefully great information and helping and supporting you on your way. I got a wonderful question from one of my viewers, and so I decided that I would answer his question through a video. And then I thought about it and I realized that I actually need to do two videos. And the question was about slowing the breath. How do we calm the breath? So the first video that I'm going to do is talk about what impacts the breath. And then the second video will be about techniques that you can use that will help you be able to slow your breath and ultimately go to those deeper places when we're meditating, because the breath is the most annoying, interfering part of our physiology when it comes to our spiritual work. So first of all, let's talk about the body and the breath. You know that any spiritual organization you've ever read or heard about, or any spiritual teachings, always talk about the best approach in food is a vegetarian diet. And the reason is because when we take in meat, there is an acid in the meat that ultimately comes into our body, and that acid then requires laboring in from a breathing standpoint, from a breath standpoint. I remember probably, a lot of years ago, and I know that they don't do this anymore, but I went through a period where my psychic body was so sensitive, and I would be eating some chicken that had been treated with certain hormones, and the physiological response in my body was that I felt like I had been drinking really bad, cheap wine, and I couldn't sleep, and the room would spin, and so ultimately I got to this point that I really was like, no, I just can't do this any longer. So the piece of it is let's do simple, the way the body works. So we take food in, the stomach digests it, it pulls blood into the stomach to help support that digestive system. And then whatever impurities are then passed into the blood, they are then moved through the circulatory system to the heart and the lungs. The heart ultimately to purify the blood, to move it to the lungs to purify it. I'm not a doctor. These could be, I think I'm close in my knowledge of how that whole process works. Regardless of what the process is, ultimately, what we eat and the amounts of food we eat put a strain on the body to not only digest that food, but also to eliminate it. So when it comes to, blood being transferred back into the heart so that it can be, ultimately then purified, if you think about that piece of it, the way I think about it is that it really makes me physically aware. It makes me very conscious of my body. One of the things that I don't really want to do as a psychic person is to be very, totally physically aware and about my body and hearing my stomach gurgle or think that I'm hungry or any of those pieces. So really, in those moments that I have been looking for the finest vibrations, right? Finest energy that I can receive in out of the invisible world, ultimately, I'm going to really almost be like an athlete in training, watching my food, no alcohol, watching my coffee or any kind of caffeines, anything that's going to hit the nervous system. All of these things are going to contribute to your ability and my ability to quiet the breath, to then ultimately go into deeper stages and phases of meditation, and even just into heightening our own sensitivity that we want to do in order to support our own unfolding of not only the spiritual part of who we are, but also certainly the psychic part of who we are. So this is it's really important to start here. We have to start here when we start to think about fine-tuning our spiritual journey, fine-tuning our spiritual tools, the psychic senses, diminishing the psychic and diminishing the physical senses and bringing up the psychic senses. I always use that gesture when I taught groups. It was always a mental idea that I really wanted to convey to people who were working with me, to really understand that this is really important. Obviously, who we spend time with, where we go, all of that begins to be an additional level of impact on our psychic and spiritual body. Being in a large group can be very difficult for particularly sensitive people. I've met people who just really, can't go out into the world, and with great comfort and by choice. I think I talked in one of my videos about wanting to increase my own psychic ability, and so as a result of that, I didn't let anyone in my home. I changed my diet. There were so many different things that I did along the way to really support this. Okay, so that's it. All I want you to do is to really become conscious of what you're putting in your body. It really becomes paramount, becomes really a top priority when we're working in these realms and these worlds. I once did a ceremony with the Navajo people. I won't go into great detail about that, but one of the things that happened right before the ceremony began was that there was a meal of a soup that was very specifically made to support the journey that we as a group were about to undertake. That started about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we went all the way through the night, to the next morning till 11 o'clock. So it was a 24-hour journey where we literally sustained the body, but didn't overtax it or overpower it. So there's my message. Start to check in with yourself, figuring out what's working, what's not working for you, and supporting your journey. It's really important. But wherever you are today, you're having a great day. And as always, thanks for listening to me.